Welcome to the first stream of the Swan cast. In this premiere episode, we'll be discussing some of the biggest news in the Middle East. First on the list is the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the Middle East conflicts have always been a major issue, still to this day. You can see in this clip an Israeli airstrike in Palestine.
It was another sleepless and deadly night for the people in Gaza as they were attacked by artillery and airstrikes. The Israeli military said it targeted sites Hamas has been using to launch around 2,300 rockets at Israel over the last several days, killing Israeli civilians. The Israeli military released images showing precision strikes destroying Hamas tunnels and what it described as Hamas commanders' apartments. But medical officials in Gaza say Palestinian civilians were also killed. This man says he lost 6 members of his family in an airstrike, including 3 grandchildren and his pregnant daughter-in-law.
Okay, now let's unpack all of that, because there was a lot happening. First off, the attack on civilian targets by Israel, even though Israel claims these were military targets, which they eliminated in a humane manner with sufficient prior warning, does not make this any less wrong. And it's not just Israel, it's both sides. Rockets have reportedly been fired from inside Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon, causing issues between Israel and Lebanon to rise again. Neither side is in the right on for this war, and there are many reasons for this. Some of the major reasons that have led to this are Britain and just Britain. You see, after World War II, the Jewish people were asking for the Jewish homeland to be an independent country. However, this was also the homeland of Islam. So in typical British fashion, they closed their eyes, drew a line, and moved on. Just in case you didn't quite get how Great Britain is at drawing lines, here's something at the art department. Show you to what America would look like if Britain still controlled us. Let's talk about the India-Pakistan conflict now. After World War II, Britain had the brilliant idea of separating the Indian subcontinent by ethnic groups. India was created for a state of Hindu people, and Pakistan was created as a state for Islamic people. What the British did not see coming from their limited worldview is that the Muslim people and the Hindu people have a long history of hating each other. Spurring back all the way to the Mughal Empire, during the Mughal Empire, a Muslim minority is ruling over a Hindu majority, and this caused these ethnic groups to hate each other. Now, that still relates today, because when the British divided them up, they divided them by ethnic groups, and now both of those are at war. The scariest part about this is that both of these countries have nukes.
Kashmir is a region between India, Pakistan, and China. After World War II, Britain left this region to be divided up by the 2 brand new nations. Pakistan claims that Kashmir has a Muslim majority and therefore belongs to them, while India claims that Kashmir has a Hindu majority and therefore is rightfully theirs. Both nations claim that all of Kashmir belongs to them, but in actuality the land is divided up between them and the bordering nation, China. India owns the southern sector, which is the largest sector. Pakistan claims the northwest sector, and China claims the northeast sector. India also claims the most economically developed sector, giving them the advantage in current standings. Because of this, India is trying to hold a stalemate in the region so they keep their position of power.
57 days of non-stop confrontation in eastern Ladakh. And while generals on both sides spent 12 hours discussing disengagement on Tuesday, it's precisely the opposite that's happening on the ground. In the latest development, China has deployed 2 additional divisions of its mechanized forces along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. The Indian security forces are also keeping a hawk eye on the movement of Chinese troops in the rear positions in Tibet where an additional 10,000 troops have been holding an exercise for some time now. In response, the Indian Army has shifted 3 divisions, including 30,000 troops and frontline strike weaponry like tanks, infantry combat vehicles, and artillery to Ladakh. And in the most serious friction point of Pangong So, the army will soon receive high-performance boats to escalate patrolling in response to the Chinese build-up there.
India's current population is quickly increasing to numbers that even rival China. This, with the combination of the developments in India in the past couple of years, are suggesting that India is trying to be a major player on the world stage. Pakistan is lagging behind in India's technological development, but is matching India in military development. Both of these nations have the ability to turn this conflict into a global conflict, which has the nations of the world keeping a close eye on the region for any changes.
Now, let's move on to Syria, a confusing web of alliances and enemies. All we really know from this chart is that everyone hates ISIS. Now, this whole war stems from a proxy war in Syria between the Free Syrian Army, who was backed by the US, and the Syrian government, which is backed by Russia. This leads to really tense, heavily armed conflicts. As we can see in this image, bombings are happening all over the place in Syria. The Syrian government and their people are at war with each other. This civil war has been going on since 2011 and is still going on to this day. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden called for an airstrike in Syria. This leads many to ask, is there hope for peace in the Middle East? Even with all of these problems, there is hope for peace in the Middle East. The major reason for all of these conflicts are the effects of World War II. Long-standing rivalries between ethnic groups have caused warfare in the region. These tensions were exemplified by the decolonization process from European powers. The world has to address these issues and take them seriously because they pose a global threat. Countries need to set aside their old rivalries in order to move forward as a society. If this can be accomplished, peace can be found in the Middle East for the first time in many decades. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Swancast. I've been your host, Joshua Swanson, signing off. And remember,
we're no strangers.